Welcome back to GMBF 2025. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. We will now be entering our first plenary session, Strengthening Economic Partnerships for Trade, Investment and Innovation. This session explores how countries and businesses in the Muslim world can deepen cooperation to boost trade, attract investment and promote innovation. Speakers will share perspective on building partnerships that support sustainable growth and open new opportunities across sectors. And our panelists for this session are Seri Abdul, Wahid Omar, Chairman of SciPark Resources and former Minister in the Prime Minister's Department Economic Planning and former Chairman of Bursa Malaysia. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Dr. M. Din Syamsuddin, Co-Chairman of the Global Muslim Business Forum, GMBF 2025, and Chairman and Center for Dialogue and Cooperation Among Civilizations, CDCC, Indonesia. A round of applause, please, for Professor Dr. M. Din Syamsuddin. Sir Iqbal Sacranie, Chairman of the Muslim Trade Forum, MTF, and Chairman of the Global Group of Companies, UK. Let's keep the applause going. Mr. Salahuddin Kasem Khan, Executive Chairman of SICO Foundation Bangladesh and former International Advisory Council, World Islamic Economic Forum, WIEF. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency Mr. Bulat Sugurbayev, Ambassador of Kazakhstan to Malaysia, who was slated to attend but is unable to make it as he has fallen ill. And who best to moderate this session other than Datuk Seri Mohamed Iqbal Rawther, President of the Global Muslim Business Forum, GMBF, and Deputy President of the KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Please, ladies and gentlemen, with that, Datuk Seri Mohamed Iqbal Rawther, you have the floor. Take it away, sir.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning once again. I'm given the privilege to chair this panel session. This is session 1, Strengthening Economic Partnerships for Trade, Investment and Innovation. I think in terms of opening remarks, what I had to say already been said and amplified further by His Excellency Sheikh Yusuf Riza Jilani, and also our senior minister from Cambodia in the opening address, and together with Dr. Wakil. I'm very privileged now to have 4 stalwarts of the world Muslim community. When I say, I really say it with sincerity. We have with us, as you know, Seri Abdul Wahid Omar, former minister in the Prime Minister's Department, very much involved for economics and economic development. And on my right again, Pak Din Syamsuddin, although it is listed as co-chairman of World Muslim Leadership Forum, Global Muslim Business Forum, because the co-chair was intended with Indonesia taking over the forum, but again it was postponed perhaps to 2026. And Pak Din is Muhammadiyah movement, is the largest Islamic movement in the whole world, with well over, I do not want to mention a figure, but almost half the population of Indonesia. I think you would give him a round of applause for that leading. Very progressive. And then on my left is Brother Salahuddin Kasem Khan, Executive Chairman of SICO Foundation, Bangladesh, and International Advisory Council of World Islamic Economic Forum. And on my extreme left, I have my namesake or I am his namesake, I do not know. We both share a common name, Sir Iqbal Sacranie, whom I know very well because if you look at the British Muslim community, about 400 over organizations belonging to the Muslim community, they brought under the British Muslim Council of Great Britain. And you give him a big applause, and then he led that as Secretary General. So, without going into the nitty-gritty of what it is, we have slightly modified order of presentation. Brother Salahuddin Kasem Khan has prepared a sort of a presentation, so I'll invite him to do first the presentation, and then we will take the order one by one with Tan Sri Wahid, Pak Din, and Iqbal Sacranie. You are invited, sir, please. You all right with that?
Thank you, sir. Oops. Sorry about that. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, excellencies, colleagues, friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a privilege to speak on an idea whose time has truly come, SIACO, Southeast Asian Cooperation under an OIC framework. Next. Today we explore a framework in our shared history, culture, geography, and economic aspiration. 5 nations, Bangladesh, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Maldives, together represent a region of enormous strategic potential. Yet despite our size and common interests, we lack a dedicated platform that binds us economically, academically, and socially under one coordinated umbrella. SIACO would also include Muslim minority populations of the ASEAN region. For example, Cambodia, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines. Next. The origin of SIACO, the concept is not new. It was first proposed in the historic city of Bandung in 1992 with the vision of creating an economic bridge between ASEAN and SAARC. This was a conference organized by the Indonesian government and the Islamic Development Bank, and the chair was the great visionary Dr. B.J. Habibie, who later on became the 3rd president of Indonesia, and another great visionary, Dr. Muhammad Ali Madani, the president of IDB. Even then, the objective was very clear: establish a regional cooperation mechanism among OIC member states of South and Southeast Asia, expand trade, connectivity, and development integration, foster partnership across public, private, academic, and people's domains. Today, more than 30 years later, that vision is even more relevant. I recall Dr. B.J. Habibie in a one-to-one discussion that it was very difficult to coordinate 57 OIC countries spanning from Indonesia to Morocco. However, if we could set up regional structures like SIACO, this could be the way forward. Next, regional cooperation landscape. Across the Muslim world, we already see strong regional groupings. ECOWAS in West Africa, UMA in the Maghreb, UCAS in Central Africa, GCC in the Gulf, ECO across Central Asia and beyond. But there's no equivalent South and Southeast Asian economic bloc for OIC countries. SIACO fills that gap, completing what is missing in the global architecture of Muslim regional cooperation. Next. 5 countries form the foundation of this bloc. 2 from SAARC, Bangladesh and Maldives, and 3 from ASEAN, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. Each unique yet deeply complementary is positioned along one of the most crucial maritime corridors, each sharing heritage, faith, markets, and opportunity. Together we represent a formidable bloc with a population of over 450 million, a GDP of 4.5 trillion in PP terms, and a total trade of over 500 billion plus. Next, a building block for OIC integration. Think of SIACO not as a standalone vision, but as a building block in a larger economic vision, from regional, interregional, global cooperation, from SIACO, DA, to the future Islamic Fleet Area, and ultimately the Islamic Common Market, we hope, by the year 2050. That is the dream the Muslim community has had for the last 70 to 80 years. The layered progression supports trade liberalization, investment mobility, supply chain integration, and unified market access. The future of global economics belongs to regions, not to isolated nation states. SIACO's positions us ahead of that curve. Next, Big B, the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt, was floated by the Japanese Prime Minister late Shinzo Abe and was endorsed by the government of Bangladesh. The Bay of Bengal is emerging as one of the most important geostrategic and economic corridors in the world. The Big B initiative, the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt, aims to accelerate industrial development across Dhaka, Chittagong, Mathalbari, and beyond to shape a value chain hub for South Asia and Southeast Asia. Its pillars are clear: energy and power, transport and logistics, investment, climate reform, sustainable upliftment. With Big B, Bangladesh becomes a central node linking South Asia with Southeast Asia, bridging SAARC and ASEAN economies and enabling regional value chain integration. SIACO strengthens this bridge. Next, strategic geography. Look at the map before us. From Bhutan and Nepal to the northeast, from China to Vietnam, from India to the west, and ASEAN nations to the east, Bangladesh stands at the heart of a remarkable economic crossroads. If we connect our peoples, our ports, our power grids, our universities, our digital corridors, we unlock a trade arc spanning from the Arabian Sea to the Pacific. This is not theory. It is a potential awaiting coordination. Next, Asian industrial corridors and triangles. SAARC, ASEAN, SIACO positioning. When we compare SAARC, ASEAN, and a future SIACO, we recognize something important. SIACO can act as a bridge between those two major regional systems, a connector of markets, a carrier of goods, ideas, technology, capital, and peoples, a platform of Muslim-majority economic strength operating inside the world's fastest growing region. If implemented well, SIACO becomes a critical engine of integration. The future ahead. Paradigm shift to the Bay of Bengal. As global economic gravity shifts towards Asia as indicated by the Lee Kuan Yew Institute of the London School of Economics, Bay of Bengal is projected to become a core center of global economic structure. This is not a distant dream. It is a trajectory already in motion. With SIACO, we have the opportunity not only to ride that shift, but to shape it by 2050. In closing, allow me to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, SIACO is more than an economic framework. It is a platform for unity, a vehicle for prosperity, and a gateway to global competitiveness. The question before is simple. Will we move forward together as an ummah, or let history move forward without us? That is the critical question. Ladies and gentlemen, let us implement SIACO with confidence, vision, and collaboration for our region, for our people, for the generation that follow. I believe SIACO will spearhead the economic transformation of the Ummah, inshallah, as predicted by the third President of Indonesia, Dr. B.J. Habibie. May Allah rest his soul in peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Salahuddin. That was a very good presentation graphically. You are now saying that regional cooperation among Islamic communities or Muslim nations is an important, and some of the relationship that you have drawn definitely can contribute to the enhancement of economic partnership, trade, investment, and innovation. But to what extent there are limitations to this, because they are not integrable countries, because they have got their neighbors in some perspectives which are with political and religious and other considerations. We will come back to you on this, and we will want to look at the other speakers to share their perspectives on building partnerships that support sustainable growth and open new opportunities across sectors. In this regard, both Malaysia and now growing more importantly, Indonesia have got a good say, and I will invite Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, because he has served the government very efficiently during his tenure as Minister for Economic Affairs. Tan Sri?
Thank you, Datuk Iqbal. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, or good morning still. Let me begin by thanking KSI and GMBF for inviting me to be here this morning. Happy to provide the Malaysian perspective, if I may. Let me clarify that I don't represent the government per se, but perhaps the broader general business community in Malaysia. Now, if you look at Malaysia's strategy in the past, we have always believed in the diversification of our economy, in terms of the structural economy, as well as the export markets and so on. And therefore, it's always been the interest of Malaysia to make sure that we do business with as many countries as possible. Having said that, obviously, being part of ASEAN, there's always that desire to promote greater intra-ASEAN trade, where instead of Malaysia relying on our domestic 33 million market, we'll be able to actually tap on the 270, to the 600-700 million market that we have within ASEAN. Now, beyond ASEAN, we have signed up with RCEP, and also being part of CPTPP and other initiatives. And of course, in that context, also there are also other bilateral initiatives in terms of working with Singapore and so on. So, any effort to broaden that perspective, working with OIC countries, that will certainly be welcome. And to what Mr. Salahuddin mentioned about SIACO, I think that's something which should also be welcome. It's within context of diversifying our trade and investment across the various countries. Now, having said that, I think if you look at Malaysia's trade with other OIC countries, it is still relatively small. And that's on account of, among others, the size of the economy of Muslim countries itself. And we spoke about there being 1.9 billion population, Muslim population in the world, and that's about 25% of the total population. But if you look at the total size of the Muslim economies, I believe it's actually less than $10 trillion. So meaning that even the top 3 largest Muslim economies, they only had about 1.4 trillion, so between Indonesia and Turkey, and then you have Saudi at about 1 trillion US dollars. So these 3 combined is actually less than 4 trillion ringgit. And where are we in terms of the top 10 GDP? Well, you see Indonesia and Turkey at number 10 or 11, as opposed to the top 10. So the point I'd like to make here is that as much as we make up 25% of the population, in terms of size of economy, it is only at about 8% or at the last count. Now, being small in number means that the prospects for growth is certainly there. And I think this is where, by right, if we are going to punch at the level playing field, at our weight, so to speak, we should be 3 times bigger. And I think this is where there's a need for a more coordinated, I would say, promotion and engagement among the OIC countries on how we can actually develop this further. Now, in order for that to happen, it will have to be facilitated by multilateral agencies that we have. Now, I would say that in terms of the single biggest entity that we have today under OIC is basically the Islamic Development Bank. One can argue that Islamic Development Bank is doing their part in funding various economic activities in various countries, but a lot of them has been confined to some infrastructure. And whilst they've been doing better from a year-to-year perspective, in terms of penetration, relative to the size of the economies of the global countries, perhaps there's a lot more that ISDB can do, if I may. Now, then there's the bilateral arrangements between countries. In order to facilitate greater trade investment, obviously you need connectivity. Air connectivity is actually a big part of that as well. And although we are seeing more and more airlines from the Middle East and Turkey, for example, expanding into other Muslim countries, hopefully there will be a lot more. So I think just now, this morning we heard about Datuk Osman talking about Turkey offering direct flight into Cambodia or Phnom Penh and so on. And again, that opening of the skies to more airlines from Muslim countries will certainly facilitate greater trade and investment. The third one, perhaps, Dr. Iqbal, if I may, perhaps talk about, is the need for greater presence of intra-OIC banks operating in each country. Now, in the context of ASEAN, one of the biggest enablers of intra-ASEAN trade and investment is the presence of ASEAN banks across ASEAN. So we have a number of Singapore banks, for example, operating across ASEAN. Likewise, we have Maybank and CIMB operating across ASEAN. And that has been facilitating the trade investment among ASEAN countries. So I think it'd be good if we can have more financial institutions from OIC countries operating in each other. Naturally, we have some large Saudi banks, operating in some of these countries, but I think the presence is still very much small, and that's something which I think can be developed further. And perhaps one last point, Dr. Iqbal, is the role of the investment funds. Now, one can argue that there are some Islamic countries that have got significant wealth, but in general, the destination of these investments has tended to be into more of the developed market as opposed to the developing markets, especially in the other Muslim countries. There are many factors, obviously, driving it in terms of returns and so on, but one of the fundamental elements in any investment approaches has always been the risk returns. And typically, if you are a fund manager, you tend to look at investing in the lesser developed countries as carrying higher risk, and therefore, before you allocate money into that country, you are expecting a much higher hurdle rate, right? So this is actually the conventional thinking. But I think if we are really serious about promoting intra-OIC trade, you have to actually change that mindset and go back on this, what we call the purpose-based return expectation, and not to apply too high a risk premium on these countries, because when you level the investment return hurdle rate, then you'll find that the investment proposition in some of these developing countries will be a lot more compelling. So I guess the request would be for many of these funds coming from the wealthier Islamic countries to look at allocating more capital and investments into more developing countries. And that will certainly help greater intra-OIC and intra-Muslim countries trade, if I may. Let me stop there for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you. The Malaysian experience, sometimes people say in Islamic countries, is a good experience to share. And to a large extent, it is true. Malaysia, very similar to some of the Islamic countries, very agrarian-based, rural-oriented. But we moved away from the 70s and 80s to manufacturing and industrial productions, electronics and electronics. And then, of course, now we aspire to go into the high end of the, what you call the chip and the AI revolutions and so on. Now, that experience is being put aside by some of the Islamic countries. For example, there are many countries, particularly in the Gulf, they are doing jumpstart. We no need to go through that development phase. We go to the top end of the cycle and we jump into chip industries, AI, technology, and so on. And they may not even require investment from outside because they have got enough financial resources. I think this is the conflict. When Salahuddin brought in the integration on a regional basis, the Southeast Asia cooperation element, and I was looking at whether this is the Indian Ocean trade of the 500, 600 years ago. These countries were linked in some ways, and that trade is now fragmented in some ways, and we look at it. The Malaysian experience, yes, it is a very good thing, but the competition that is coming from Islamic countries themselves, and then the other conflict is that the Islamic countries who have got the resources, the financial resources, are not bringing the resources for the benefit of the Islamic countries. Why should we give it to the benefit of the Islamic countries? Whether the ummatic empathy is there or not. And this is the domain of Pak Din. And where they say that in Indonesia as a republic, we want to have a democratic institution. At the same time, we want to make sure our resources are within the country, and then we do the upscaling of the development for the benefit of the people, whether with investment coming in or whether is the internally development. To what extent Islamic countries which have got high investment capability will be able to bring in. Your take, Padin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to put a disclaimer that I am neither an economist or business analyst, nor businessman or business person. Though I have great contact and communication with various business people and association of traders and entrepreneurs in Indonesia. So that my sharing is based on that background. Number one, indeed, I put it in macro level, the Muslim world has great potential in terms of trade, economy, and business. Of the 57 member countries of the OICs and observers. But the main problem in the Muslim world and between Muslim countries is lack of solidarity for cooperation. Each country trip in a kind of, very exclusive based on nationality and ethnicity, and also the lack of mechanisms, self-defense mechanisms to the global economy with the growing of global capitalisms in the world since the last part of the 20th century. And therefore, economic cooperation and innovation are still left behind. So my ideas for the future, what need to be done, number one, we need to create such feeling of the importance of cooperation between Muslim countries or Muslim people, both at the G2G form of relationship, government to government, but also P2P, people to people relationship. In my country, Indonesia, there are millions of young traders, young entrepreneurs, and they have been associated in various of association. One is chaired by the son of former President Habibie, my friend Ilham Habibie, with the name of ISMI, Ikatan Saudagar Muslim Indonesia, Indonesian Association for Muslims Traders or Entrepreneurs. And there are many others. Like within my organization, Muhammadiyah, there are thousands of business people. They are also associated in association. But the problem is the lack of ability to connect between each others within one country like Indonesia. I have been suggesting the solution for the future is interstate trade, interstate or interprovince. Like Indonesia is big countries, consists of 33 provinces. They may, advance a kind of interprovince, and one province have product. Though the government have, promote and campaign for one district, one village, one product. So we can exchange this product. And also with other countries. So really there are great opportunities for cooperation in the future. But Datuk Seri, this kind of forum need to be advanced to be business contact forum. Not only a forum for sharing ideas, but also by bringing Muslim business people to the room, and then at the end we may get agreement for cooperation. Maybe we have index of cooperation investment in certain countries. By so doing, I agree to encourage and even persuade our respective governments to help, because what we are doing is indeed also the ideas and the objective of the government. So creating such exclusive area like Siaku and others. I learned in the past President Habibie of Indonesia has created like Sijori, Singapore, Johor, Riau, and other part like Indonesia, the Philippines, and also Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. It's a good idea, but in this globalized time, in this globalized world, I think we need to go beyond the borders, because we are now in the borders countries, border state. And therefore, before I conclude, my sharing. Yeah. Really, we need to meet the challenge of, though I observe not only globalization, it starts already deglobalization in the world today, but still cooperation, partnership is a must, and also to create innovation. And this is one of the another problems in the Muslim world, that we lack of innovation to create, in Arabic term, bid'ah. Bid'ah is haram in the field of ibadat, but bid'ah is a must in the field of mu'amalat, in the field of the mundane life, including trade and business. So innovation, especially in this era of digitalization and the era of AI, I think will give us opportunities, but we need to be able to utilize these opportunities. And I do believe such a global Muslim business forum, with the advancement to be business contact forum in the future, will give us success for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Padin. Padin started with a disclaimer. He said, I'm not a businessman, not an economist, and therefore I'm not a money builder, which is true. He's not a money builder. But he is a mind builder. He changes and shapes the minds of the people. And what he alluded just now is actually changing the mindset. And of course, Indonesia is a big country, not only in terms of population, but there are, 18,000 islands? Something like that.
17,500.
17,500. I'm adding another 500. Now, the reason is that the communication aspect is becoming very, very difficult, physical as well as digital communications. But with all these constraints, Indonesia is moving forward. And Islam is not a barrier or a retardation. This is important. And this is where people like Pak Din and Muhammadiyah is saying, Islam is not only for the akhirah, the world to come, but Islam is also for the dunya. And what we are talking about is actually the dunya. How do we relate to one another? Not only in the mosque, not only in the village, village to village, and from district to district, and province to province, and country to country. And so we are all, fortunately, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Bangladesh, almost 100%. And in Malaysia, we are not 100% Muslims. I have to be mindful about this. Now we have a situation of the Muslim diaspora, which has gone out of their own respective countries, whether it is India or Pakistan or Bangladesh. And then we have Sir Iqbal Sacranie, British, but still having contacts in terms of business, not only within Great Britain, but with Africa and also South Asia. And the business people and the religious people of Europe, and in particular Great Britain, are a different breed. Let us see how they look at the scene and how this framework of Muslim trade and investment can actually flourish for the betterment of not only for Muslims and Islamic countries, but the humanity as a whole. Over to you, sir. Yeah, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our respected Datuk Seri Muhammad Iqbal, the President of the Global Muslim Business Forum, Tan Sri Michael Yeo, the President of the KSI Strategic, my distinguished panelists, and all the friends who are gathered here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May I first of all express our deep appreciation and thanks to KSI, its partners, the Global Muslim Forum, for giving us the opportunity to come to this beautiful city of KL and not only meet our friends that we have known for many, many years, but also our new friends that have joined us over the years. I'm particularly delighted that I've got many of my friends who have been with me on the World Islamic Economic Forum over the years, who are present here and contributing to these important discussions. The area which we have been discussing in this panel, strengthening economic partnership for trade, investment, innovation, is indeed a very important area to discuss in these present times. Therefore, it's both an honor and a privilege to be here at the Global Business Forum, a gathering that reflects our shared commitment to unlocking new pathways to prosperity across the Muslim world. With a global population of nearly 2 billion Muslims and rising, we represent not only a vibrant community, but a major force of global economic opportunity. Muslim consumer spending has reached new heights, fueled by growth across halal food sector, pharmaceuticals, modest fashion, travel and media, Islamic finance, where Malaysia seems to be a hub of the development, and this continues to increase. The projected figures to surpass USD 6.7 trillion by 2027. We heard our keynote speakers, including Brother Wahid, who referred to the growth that is taking place in the Islamic halal economy. This is a great opportunity for the communities, not just Muslim communities, but across all communities who are involved in trade and finance. Therefore, the session focuses on how we can enhance partnerships for trade, investment, and innovation. This effort requires not only a shared vision, which is paramount, but a shared infrastructure, platforms that connects us across borders. And it is forums like this that gives us the opportunity to expound on these important values, and we can then see how best we can move forward. It is a fact that there is a remarkable growth of Muslim community in the West, and also more so as non-Muslims in non-Muslim countries, Muslims in non-Muslim countries. The present world situation, which has been expounded by both the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Rawther Gilani, and earlier speakers, is that there is indeed a turmoil. And the communities, particularly the Muslim communities in the West now, are facing major challenges. Challenges of Islamophobia, of discrimination, alienation, and this all is happening not just in Britain and in the Western Europe, but we can see it expanding into other non-Muslim countries as well. There's a huge growth of this extremism, nationalism that is taking place, where they are trying to marginalize a community that is playing its key role in non-Muslim countries to ensure that their identity, their position in the society is acknowledged and respected. But the key point that comes in, how do we address our concerns to our government, to the society in which we live in? We have seen throughout the history that when a community is strong financially and economically, it is listened to, it can be heard. And when a community is seen as beggars or as a deprived community that is struggling to come in its own feet, then that understanding is not being shared properly. And therefore, it is vital that we build our infrastructures, particularly in the non-Muslim countries, where the Muslims are now growing in numbers. Our population in the UK, representing about 7%, is growing substantially. We are told that in 2050, we'll be around 12 to 15%. So it's not just the numbers that will be increasing, but the strength of the communities that will be playing its role in the society that will be increasing as well. And when that community progresses economically, it will be heard properly. The issues of Islamophobia, which we are facing across, can be better dealt with, as we have seen in other countries with other communities, how they've been able to work through. So the rise of Muslim-owned businesses across various sectors and the halal economy demonstrates mass potential. These businesses are increasingly ambitious, forward-looking, and ready to engage with partners across the world. We must ensure Muslim businesses are given access to contribute and benefit from opportunities emerging across the global economy. So therefore, it was important when the Muslim Trade Forum was set up in the UK only last year, with the support of Sheikh Yusuf Kalawi, the Secretary General of the International Chamber of Commerce, who encouraged us that now the International Chamber of Commerce itself is not just a base for the OIC countries, but we need to bring in on the table the Muslim communities in the West. And therefore, this is one of the first bodies that has been set up in the UK to bring the Muslim businesses from the SME sectors, from the top corporates that are in place, from the financial side, the commercial side, all on one platform, and give them the opportunity to interact with the OIC countries. And therefore, it's a win-win on both sides. When our communities in the West are strengthened financially, economically, they will be respected and they'll be heard. Whereas the countries, Muslim countries in the OIC, will have the great opportunity to trade and engage in business deals, particularly the growth of Islamic finance that is taking place. And UK is now becoming a hub. Our former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, at one of the conferences in London, which the Muslim Council of Britain had organized, made it clearly that London should be the gateway to Islamic finance. A huge opportunity. And therefore, excuse me, and therefore, the countries, the OIC countries, also have the opportunity to engage with the communities in the West. We have seen ourselves what happened during the crisis, recent genocidal crisis in Gaza. The failure, basically, it's a fact. We cannot deny that the Muslim countries around the world were not able to exert the pressure to bring an end to that barbarity that existed for so many years. But it is the communities in the West, the Muslim community in the West, who played a crucial role in lobbying their government. And I can give you an example in the UK. When the last elections took place, an unprecedented result took place, where 5 members, new members of parliament, were elected on the ticket of Gaza. Now this was not being highlighted in the media, but it's something of huge importance for us to understand. That it's not just the Muslims who are concerned about atrocities, injustices, dehumanizing, but there's a larger community around the world who still believe in that. And the point I'm bringing this is that it is because of our financial strength of the communities that we can exert to bring this mindset change, which Dr. Iqbal just referred to now. It's absolutely vital that we understand, not just socially, economically, but politically, our community needs that strength. And the world needs to recognize that the Muslim countries and the Muslim communities are to be respected. And they have to be acknowledged as a power that can play its positive role. And through that, Islamically, we are in adherence. And of course, all that aspect of the Islamic economy you're talking to, if it's in adherence to the Islamic principles, the success is guaranteed, Allah's barakah is there, and we can succeed. But that collective effort is required. And this conference, in my view, is one other opportunity that gives us to engage and to see how we can build up to the various infrastructures that are in place. Rather than replicating it, we try to work together and promote that collaboration and cooperation. Of course, to compete for goodness is one of the Islamic principles, and we should do it. But the need is to us to work together. Therefore, it gives me immense pleasure to appreciate the role of the Global Muslim Forum, the KCI, for bringing us together to work through. And a little important development that can take place is a small step. But in the long run, it can be a tremendous progress for all of us. And therefore, the 2025 Global Business Forum is more than an event. It is a commitment to investment and growth in the Muslim world. Not just the Muslim world itself and the countries, but I refer to the Muslim communities as well. Let us use this to strengthen ourselves and build a future not only defined by economic success, but a shared purpose. Thanks for mentioning that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Iqbal Sacranie. That's a good perspective along the lines of what the other panelists have shared. Now we have roughly about half an hour before we hand over the session to the organizers. I would like to pose or frame a couple of questions to pick up their brains and comments. The first one that I would like to particularly to Tan Sri Wahid Omar is, if you look at the Malaysian trade pattern, priority is to the US, to Japan, the EU, and so on. But the trade flow, it's very, and probably this would be very similar in other countries as well. Without compromising on the current situation, what are the ways in which, I think the government is already taking some initiatives in this, broadening the trade patterns and so on. What would be the sort of a future look at that we can learn from the initiatives?
Sure. So I think it's like any country, we want to sell as many products as possible to as many countries as possible. And we want to sell products that have got the most, the highest value added, for sure. So in the context of today's environment, naturally, one of the highest value added products has been the E&E sector, the semiconductors and so on. And naturally, if you are talking about selling those kind of products, it will go to the more developed markets, your US, Europe, and so on. And that's part of the global supply chain. Then you have the intermediate, the kind of manufactured goods, and then you go down the way to the commodities. Now, the reality today is that the commodity sector, meaning that mining and agriculture, makes up only 12% of our GDP, relatively small. But in terms of the export value, it can be quite sizable. So in the context of food products and in the case of wearing my other IOI hat, is actually the palm oil sector. Now, the prospective buyers for some of these products would naturally come from the more developing countries. So in the case of palm oil, for example, countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and so on, they are substantial buyers of our products. And that's certainly an area which can be expanded further beyond crude palm oil into refined products and further FMCG products, if you like. So, Dr. Sri, if I may, the general strategy would be to, again, broaden our market to sell as much products which have got higher value add, for sure. And that's something that will continue. Now, back to the highest, I would say, the E&E products and so on. As Muslim countries become more developed, and as some of them become part of the global supply chain, I think naturally they will also become buyers of our products too. And comes with that would be the EI related fields and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, we produce and sell what is demanded. No choice. I can produce, but what is demanded, I produce, I sell. I don't care to whom I sell. I think that is the businessman mindset. I don't have other considerations because my money, my effort, my labor, everything is put into this one. That is the pattern, and then we need to move along that to enhance the Muslim trade, whether within the OIC or OIC outside. Now, Padin, coming to the word halal, you'll find that practically everyone, I used just now in the address, and our friend from Cambodia used the word, and then our former Prime Minister, Syed Yusof Riza also used, and then we also use throughout. Now, in the mindset of non-Muslims, halal is something to do with Islam. I don't want to get involved with that. How do we change this mindset, and what are the understanding that we can embrace to say that halal, yes, it is Islamic in origin, but it means something more than that. What is your take?
Yeah, indeed, the mindset has been changed by itself during, the proof and evidence that halal is good things. Halal is now understood in many countries by non-Muslim is healthy. So
hygienic and healthy. Yeah.
Hygienic and healthy, and others. I happened to attend twice Japan Halal Summit 2014-2016, and one minister of Japan, Minister of Trade and Infrastructure, during his keynote speech was stating that Japan is going to be the center of halal product of the world. And the afternoon came a great Japanese non-Muslim trader, the owner of Soba restaurant in Ginza, the most popular place in Tokyo. He came to me because he knows that at that time I was chairman of Majelis Ulama Indonesia. Can I get halal certificate from Indonesia? Because I want to change my Soba restaurant into halal restaurant. Are you Muslim? No. I am Buddhist. I am a Shintoist. But I want to be, owner of halal. This one of. A second occasion, I was invited by a young lady in Korea for dinner, and she told me that she wants to change her product, Thailand Cosmetics, one of the famous cosmetics in Korea for the young people, to be halal products. And she wants to build manufacturer in Indonesia and get the certificate. So really there are great opportunities, yeah. Though you didn't ask me, but little bit, we need to conduct a kind of the art of the possibles in such situation. And I may suggest, yeah, we need to go forward from talking into action by bringing the possibility, demand, yeah. There are so many demands. A minister, Malaysian minister of Trade, Ugama and Trade of Pulau Pinang, I forgot his name, asked me if possible from Indonesia you send cow bone, tulang sapi.
Tulang, yeah, okay.
In English,
Cow bones.
Cow bones, because we need it. Because in Malaysia, in Pulau Pinang, want to produce halal gelatin.
Oh, gelatin, yeah.
Yeah, because many gelatin was made of pig bone. And I bring him into contact. I brought him into contact with one Muhammadiyah businessman in Medan, North Sumatra. But I don't know, they follow up. Sometimes the business people forgot his... yeah, this is one example. And now, there are many great demands from Russian Federation to Indonesia for coffee. So I encourage Muslim traders for coffee to send coffee to Russia. Yeah, we have the idea to globalize coffee and to coffee the globe. Mengglobalkan kopi dan mengkopikan global. So this kind of, small things. So I need to suggest for Muslim business people, think big, start small, think globally, start locally, do it slowly but sure, if not the big bang. So I do hope for the future Global Muslim Business Forum, number one, to conduct a kind of orientation for entrepreneurship of the candidate, future business people in many respective countries. And number two, to organize during this kind of forum for business contact.
Yes.
So business contact, and that at the end we have concrete cooperation between the Muslim business people. Thank you.
Thank you, Padin. Thank you. In sum, what Padin says is, don't limit the circle just to the Muslim group. When you produce halal food, it is not only for Muslims, but to the whole, because it is not religious. It is not religious only. It is halal and tayyiban, meaning it's hygienic, is good. Even cosmetics, don't go and take anything, but if you take halal, your face remains still attractive. Not distorted. Okay, now Brother Salahuddin, you talked quite a bit and you put in your diagrams into this. Now much of it is based on the 57 OIC countries and how we can increase. From your own knowledge, I'm not asking you immediately to produce the statistics. What is the sort of a trade volume and value that goes on between Muslim countries in comparison to other countries, and how we can enhance these?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I don't have the exact figures, but it's
I don't expect you to give that.
Quite low. I think less than 10% of our global trade is done between the OIC countries. There are, of course, exceptions where countries like Malaysia, Turkey, they do much larger volumes within the OIC countries. The problem has been first globalization, secondly colonization. You know, before we had coastal shipping. Ships from Chittagong would go to Penang, then to Medan, right up to Aceh. But after containerization, these huge mammoth ships destroyed the coastal trade which took place over centuries. So the small ports in the Islamic countries, like in South and Southeast Asia, they fell into disuse. And only big maritime ports took over. So this has been one of the reasons. The other is, for example, Indonesia was controlled by the Dutch, Bengal by the British, and they didn't allow interaction. If you wanted to buy something from Indonesia, you would have to go to Holland, and vice versa. So from Bengal alone, the British took billions of dollars, pounds every year, because they collected the revenue of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, which was 1/4 of the Mughal Empire. And they used that revenue to use it for trade. They sent Indian goods out of India by paying with our revenue to the UK. This was the type of exploitation. During the British time, millions of Bengalis died of famine. This never happened under the Mughal period or the Sultanate period, because they extracted all the wealth from our countries and exported to the West. The British Empire was built on the gold of Bengal and the rest of India. And I said this in a forum in London, to our Bengali business community, that they don't feel inferior. You have built the streets of London with our money from Bengal. And now I ask the British, we don't want reparations, but at least invest in our countries. Give back to us through trade and investment. And this should be our policy.
Thank you. Thank you. It reminds me of Professor Jeffrey Sachs, the proponent of sustainability agenda. He said the whole world has got a problem because of the British. I'm sorry. Not only in Bangladesh, everywhere, including America. Absolutely. What I say is just as a passing by.
Right.
Brother Iqbal, Britain had Brexit. It moved out of the European Union. And now it says we have to engage with trade alliances elsewhere. They are coming to be partner in CP, TPP, and maybe participate in RCEP, and what else? Now, how do you see this objective and the fact that you are chairman of the Muslim Trade Forum in UK? How do you think that your effort and the British effort can actually jive with the sort of things that we are saying in order to expedite more trade and investment?
Thank you, Datuk. A very useful question. First of all, I think I must be very open. I believe the exit from European Union was the biggest blunder Britain has ever done.
As usual, the British make more blunders. Continue to make blunders.
It is a fact. The figures are showing itself. And now the proponents of that exit are also coming to terms that perhaps it was not a good decision. However, on the other side, the opportunity for Britain to deal with those countries where the preferential tariff rates were not there have opened up. So Britain, of course, is now taking a huge step, not just because of its present economy, which is not in a good state, but they are having bilateral relations now with a number of countries. And this is where the Muslim countries in particular have a great opportunity to work on. And we have seen recently Britain's sort of approach to Indian market. Our Prime Minister was in India. They are looking at visits once the Bangladesh elections and all are over. They are very much looking in contact with Bangladesh. In Indonesia, our country is very keen in developing trade. Our missions are going in on a regular basis and trying to build up that gap that has been left after Brexit. So this would help both the country, but from our point of view, the Muslim Trade Forum, we have seen over the years that a community where 10 or 12%, in fact up to 20% were in menial jobs like factory workers and taxi drivers, that number has changed substantially. So we have more entrepreneurs now coming in, more young professionals in the economy, and their contribution is now gradually being recognized. And we believe through Black Muslim Trade Forum, we will be ambassadors to our country to engage in trade with a number of countries and bring that opportunity into the UK. So it's both inward and outward investments that can be very, very useful. And this more, I believe, can be created in other European countries as well, because this will strengthen the position of the community, it will help our country, their own countries into it, and this is what to show that the community are not here as net receivers from the economy, but they give so much back to the economy.
Yes, as what Salahuddin said, the British took everything from Indian subcontinent. I mean, at that particular time, it was only a subcontinent. No Pakistan, no Bangladesh, and so on. Now, the two things that comes out from what you have said and from the discussions is that in some of the European and West countries, including the US, you'll find that there are more and more Muslim representatives and people who can articulate and influence the government. And therefore, in terms of products coming from Islamic countries, it is possible. More opening is possible and more favorable, because not only your population, Muslims, is increasing, but the population who understands Islam and understand the Muslim ethics is increasing. So that is plus. The reverse is that the investment possibility from some of these countries, particularly the UK. I was at the Kausalya economic enclave there, and some of the British lords and others who came in and bringing in the investment into India is very, very huge. And likewise, it is possible for that kind of investment flow to take place, not to take only the lower layers of the economic platform, but the higher value. Now, with that, I will conclude the panel discussion here. I have about 10 minutes before I hand over. I must give an opportunity, one or two questions or comments from the floor. There are microphones there on both ends. Is there anyone who can put up the hand, and then you come forward and then you tell who you are and what background? I don't want to give a profile, just say which company or which country you come from, and then ask your comment to anyone or generally. Anybody? Yes, please. The one there, extremely on your left there. Yeah, the mic is there. You're most welcome to here. I'll give you my mic.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm architect Mustafa Kamal. I'm an architect, urban designer, and also technologist. I got the privilege from the Malaysian government to actually study overseas, and came back and worked over in Malaysia for past 35 years. I'm not sure whether it's a comment or question. Probably the problem with us is not about what we are doing now, but it probably stems from where our education of Islam comes in. Because when I was in school, the ustaz or ustazah, the moment the school starts talking about Islam, is the first thing is what you cannot do, rather than what you are what you are encouraged to do and what you are deemed to do. So that's always about the nots and the don'ts. And when going overseas, also I got a shock of my life that even my foster parent in New Zealand was trying to, when we stayed over there, Mustafa, this is your room and this is where you can pray because we really make it clean for you. So I didn't know who tell them that we have those sort of things. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't know whether we need to actually change or rework the way that we actually teach Islam or even the Muslim religion to younger people, rather than state what cannot be done, but what is encouraged and how you could do it better. Then, you know, the way they call it, the reverse psychology, is always tell the good things rather than tell the bad things. I'm not sure whether this is going to create havoc in this room or what this is actually what's happening here. It still is doing so. So I believe that if we are going to grow in this forum, probably a discussion of this nature could be, and it could also stems with the, rather than what you cannot do in business, what is encouraged to do, so that we actually create more participation. Thank you.
Great, Mustafa Kamal, great name, Ataturk. Ataturk Mustafa Kamal. I think your parents must have remembered Ataturk, you know. You are a revolutionary. I think I'm not going to address this question. Yeah, coming to you, I just, because it is a very good comment. This is a fundamental, what we call fault line in our Islamic education. I think I will share 1962 when I went to UK. We formed the Federation of Islamic Student Society in the United Kingdom and Ireland, forces. The issue was different from what it is now. So Islamic education is embracing the humanity. I think if you forget that Islamic education and Muslims embrace the humanity, it is not an exclusive religion for yourself. Muslims are not meant for yourself. So I will just make that comment, Mustafa. We will use this as a base for somewhere else. Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I am a medical doctor. Also, my name is Kamal. He is Mustafa. I am Kamal. I am a medical doctor. He's an architect. Actually, I just came from Holland. I am a founder of Ibn Sina Institute. Actually, 25 years ago, former Prime Minister Necmettin Erbakan advised me to establish institute in Europe for halal research. Almost 25 years I am doing as a medical doctor, as a gerontologist, halal and healthy research actually. Now, next week we have a big congress in Manila, Islamic World Health Congress in Manila. Almost 40 countries are attending. I will be one of the speakers there on healthy aging and longevity. It is, you are right. I mean, halal is not only the Muslims, halal and healthy life for all, actually. Longevity for all. Inshallah, next year we are planning longevity and halal forum in Europe. Now we would like to discuss, maybe in May is a good time, because before the summer, I was in Makkah Halal Forum, I was in London Halal Forum. Now the time for Europe Halal Forum, because Brexit, London is already there. Inshallah, now we have almost 40 million Muslims in Europe. Now it's projected to be 50, 60 million within 20 years' time. 50 million Muslims around Europe, actually. Then mostly are the Turkish also, like 10 million Turkish Muslims. Inshallah, I would like to invite Global Muslim Business Forum to Düsseldorf, the main connection point of Europe, actually, from Benelux countries, everywhere. Then maybe we can decide actually with the organizers, first week of May, then we can start from now. I would like to invite you to Europe and European Halal Forum. and also healthcare cooperation. Because like Europe is aged, they need almost 1 million nurses and caregivers and care works also, investment. Why not we can have a global healthcare cooperation or investment there also. The Muslims can do their best for healthcare sector actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother Kamal. Thank you for your information. Can we now agree that halal, you have got H, you add one more, that is health, you add one more, that is called humanity. Halal means is health for humanity. So H3, not H2O, H3, I think. Thank you very much for your point, and then we will share ourselves. And there's a lot of opportunity to bridge your 30,000 nurses that you need in Europe, coming from Malaysia and Indonesia. No problem. With that, I think I will conclude and hand over. But before that, I think we have to give a round of applause to Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar and Pak Din and Salahuddin and my brother Iqbal Sacranie. Thank you very much for those Mustafa Kamal and Kamal that you have given the comment, Mustafa Kamal, Kamal Bacha. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much.